Jemma had always been the one to stand out in a crowd, and not always in the ways she desired. Her voluptuous frame had been a source of both admiration and ridicule since her teenage years. In the academic world, she had found refuge. Her sharp intellect and unyielding dedication to her PhD studies in literature had earned her the respect she craved. Yet there was a part of her that remained unseen, a part that she kept hidden from her peers and professors alike. In the quiet of her studio apartment, Jemma transformed into a creature of the night, offering her plus-sized figure as a canvas for men's fantasies. She had stumbled upon this unorthodox form of companionship by chance, an ad on a website that catered to those seeking a more intimate experience with a woman of her size. At first, it had been a means to an end, a way to support herself through the rigorous academic grind. But as time went on, it became a cathartic release, a place where she could lay bare her soul and feel desired in a way that transcended the superficial. Her clientele varied. There were the married men seeking a taste of the forbidden, the lonely souls seeking solace in her embrace, and the ones who simply admired the grandeur of her figure. Jemma had rules, no names, no strings attached, and always safe. She had built a wall around her heart, a fortress to protect herself from the potential pain that could come from allowing these men into her personal life. Yet she found solace in their eyes, in their touch, and in the way they whispered sweet nothings that seemed to resonate deep within her. One rainy evening, a man named Alex found his way into her world. He was different from the others. There was a gentleness to him that she hadn't encountered before. He didn't just see her as a commodity to be used and discarded, but rather as a woman with feelings and desires of her own. Alex was tall, with a lean build and piercing blue eyes that seemed to look straight through her. His attentiveness was like a warm embrace, and she felt herself inexplicably drawn to him. Their first meeting was like a dance, a delicate balance of power and submission. He didn't push her boundaries, but instead asked for permission, which she granted with a shy nod. His touch was tender, almost reverent, as he explored the curves that she had grown to both love and loathe. Jemma felt a spark that she hadn't felt in a very long time, a spark that grew into a flame as the night progressed. Their sessions became more frequent, and soon the lines between client and companion began to blur. They would spend hours talking about their lives, their hopes, and their fears. Alex spoke of his failed relationships and his yearning for a connection that was more than skin deep. Jemma, in turn, shared her struggles with body image and the isolation that often accompanied her line of work. One evening, as they lay entangled in the afterglow of passion, Alex took her hand and whispered, "Jemma, I think I'm falling in love with you." The words hung in the air, thick and heavy, a declaration that she had never anticipated. Her heart fluttered in a way it hadn't in years, and she found herself at a crossroads. Was it possible to find love in a situation that had been born from the ashes of her insecurities? Their encounters grew less about the physical and more about the emotional connection that was blossoming between them. They would hold hands and walk in the park, sharing ice cream and whispering secrets under the moonlight. They watched movies, cooked meals, and even went to the library together, where he would pretend to need help finding a book just to be near her. Jemma felt like she was floating on a cloud, her heart soaring with every tender glance and sweet caress, but the reality of their situation was a constant thorn in her side. How could she tell him the truth about her life? Would he still love her if he knew she sold her body to pay the bills? Their relationship grew stronger, and the thought of losing him became unbearable. It was a warm summer night when she finally gathered the courage to reveal her secret. The warm breeze of the evening carried the scent of blooming jasmine through the open windows of the apartment, setting a romantic stage for their heart-to-heart. Jemma took a deep breath, her palms slick with sweat as she held Alex's hand. She knew this was the moment she had been dreading, the moment that could shatter the delicate bond they had formed. "Alex," she began, her voice trembling, "there's something you should know about me." He looked into her eyes, his own filled with a mix of curiosity and concern. She could see the genuine care in his gaze, and it only made her more nervous. "What is it, Jemma?" he asked softly, stroking her cheek with his thumb. Her heart racing, she told him everything, about the ads, the clients, and the life she led when she wasn't lost in the pages of her books or in the arms of her secret love. She revealed her fears and her vulnerabilities, laying herself bare before the man who had come to mean more to her than she had ever allowed herself to admit. Alex was silent for what felt like an eternity, his eyes never leaving hers. Then, with a gentle squeeze of her hand, he leaned in and kissed her forehead. "Thank you for trusting me," he murmured. The relief washed over her like a tidal wave, but it was short-lived. She waited for the judgment, the disgust, the ultimate rejection that she was certain would follow. Instead, Alex pulled her into a tight embrace. "You're still the same amazing woman I fell in love with, Jemma. Nothing you do for a living changes that." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clung to him, his words a balm to her soul. For the first time in her life, she felt truly accepted, truly seen. Their relationship continued to evolve, no longer bound by the constraints of her secret life. They grew closer, sharing more of themselves with each passing day. But the specter of her past hovered, casting a shadow over their newfound happiness. One evening, as they sat on the couch, Alex spoke up, his voice filled with resolve. "Jemma, I want to help you get out of that world. I know it's not my place to say, but I want to support you in any way I can." The offer was tempting, a beacon of hope in the murky waters she had grown accustomed to navigating. Yet, she was torn. Could she give up the financial security her secret life provided? Was she ready to let go of the only part of herself that had ever felt truly desired? After much deliberation, Jemma made her decision. With Alex by her side, she began the painstaking process of extricating herself from her double life. It was a journey fraught with peril and heartache, but his love was the lighthouse that guided her through the storm. Together they faced her fears and her demons, holding each other up when the weight of the world seemed too much to bear. Slowly but surely, Jemma started to believe that she could live a life free of the stigma that had haunted her for so long. One by one, she said her goodbyes to her clients, each encounter more difficult than the last. But with every door that closed, a new one opened, revealing a future filled with promise and possibility. Alex supported her through it all, his love unwavering and steadfast. They grew to understand each other's needs and desires, their intimacy transcending the physical to become a deep, emotional bond. Months turned into years, and the scars of her past began to fade. Jemma completed her PhD, her dissertation a testament to her resilience and intelligence. Alex was there to celebrate with her, his proud smile lighting up the room as she accepted her diploma. They moved in together, filling their lives with joy and laughter, creating a home that was a sanctuary from the world outside. They faced challenges, as all couples do, but their foundation remained strong, built on honesty and acceptance. In the quiet moments when she lay in Alex's arms, Jemma would reflect on the woman she had been and the woman she had become. One fateful day, as they strolled through the park, hand in hand, the past reared its ugly head. A man from her old life approached them, his eyes narrowed and filled with malice. He was a former client, one who had become obsessed with her, unable to accept her boundaries or the end of their arrangement. His name was Marcus, and he had made it clear in the past that he believed she belonged to him. "You think you can just leave me behind?" Marcus hissed, his voice low and menacing. "You're going to pay for this, Jemma. You're going to pay with your life." Alex stepped in front of her, shielding her with his body. "You don't get to talk to her like that," he said firmly. Marcus sneered. "You don't know who you're messing with, boy. I'll tear you apart." The threat hung in the air like a dark cloud, suffocating the peaceful afternoon. Jemma's heart hammered in her chest as she watched the two men face off, her mind racing with fear and guilt. Alex's eyes never left Marcus. "Leave us alone," he said, his voice a low growl, "or I'll make sure you regret ever laying a hand on her." The standoff lasted for what felt like hours, tension coiling around them like a serpent ready to strike. Marcus took a step closer, his fists clenched at his sides. Before the situation could escalate further, a group of passers-by approached, drawn by the commotion. Marcus took one last malevolent look at Jemma and disappeared into the crowd, his threat echoing in her ears. Alex turned to her, his eyes filled with a fierce protectiveness. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice thick with concern. Jemma nodded, her legs trembling. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice barely audible. The encounter shook her to her core, reminding her that her past had the power to invade her new life with Alex. She knew that she had to tell him about Marcus and the danger he posed. That night, she sat Alex down and recounted the history with Marcus, the obsession, the manipulation, and the fear that had followed her for so long. Alex listened, his face a mask of anger and determination. "I won't let him hurt you," he vowed. "We'll go to the police, get a restraining order." Jemma nodded, feeling a small measure of relief. They reported Marcus and took the necessary steps to protect themselves, but the fear remained, a constant companion that whispered in the shadows of their love. For a time, it seemed as though Marcus had disappeared, swallowed by the vastness of the city. But fear has a way of festering, and the shadow of her past grew longer with each passing day. One evening, as they sat in their living room, a knock at the door sent a shiver down Gemma's spine. Alex went to answer, and she heard the unmistakable sound of his voice tighten with anger. When she joined him, she saw Marcus standing in the hallway, a crazed look in his eyes. "You think you can keep her from me?" he snarled, a knife glinting in his hand. "You're wrong." Alex stepped in front of her, his body tense and ready for a fight. "Get out!" he barked, his voice laced with a ferocity that Jemma had never heard before. Marcus took a step closer, the knife rising. "It's you or me," he spat. The world seemed to slow down as Alex lunged forward, tackling Marcus to the ground. They struggled, the knife clattering to the floor as neighbors' doors began to open. Jemma watched in horror, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never felt so powerless, so terrified. But Alex was stronger, fueled by love and rage. He pinned Marcus down and held him there until the police arrived, his grip never wavering. Marcus was taken away in handcuffs, his threats echoing through the hallway. The fear that had once ruled Gemma's life had almost claimed her happiness. The aftermath of the attack was a blur of police interviews, restless nights, and a newfound appreciation for the fragility of their happiness. Yet, amidst the turmoil, their bond only grew stronger. They faced their fears together, their love a bastion against the darkness of the world. Alex's support was unwavering, his love a beacon of hope that guided her through the treacherous waters of her past. He helped her realize that she was more than the sum of her experiences, that she deserved to be loved and cherished for who she truly was. Jemma took control of her narrative, no longer allowing her past to define her. With Alex's encouragement, she began to share her story, using her voice to empower other women who had faced similar struggles. She wrote articles, spoke at conferences, and eventually published a book, shedding light on the complexities of body image and the sex industry. Their relationship grew in leaps and bounds as they faced the challenges that life threw at them. They moved in together, filling their home with love and the quiet comfort of shared routines. They learned to balance Gemma's academic career with her newfound advocacy work, each supporting the other's dreams. The shadow of Marcus lingered, but it grew fainter with each passing day. The restraining order kept him at bay, but the fear of his return was always present, a silent guest at their dinner table. One night, as they lay in bed, Jemma whispered her deepest fear to Alex. "What if he comes back?" Alex wrapped his arms around her, pulling her closer. "Then I'll be here to protect you," he promised, his voice steady and calm. "We'll face it together." Their love story was no fairy tale, but it was real. It was messy and raw, filled with moments of pain and doubt. Yet it was also a testament to the power of redemption and the resilience of the human spirit. Years later, as they watched the sun set over the city skyline from their apartment window, Jemma knew that she had found her happily ever after in the most unexpected of places. With Alex by her side, she had conquered her demons and claimed her place in the world. Their love had not just survived the storm, it had grown stronger because of it. And as they held each other close, she knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together.